agriculture and technology. We welcome you to this episode of Uncluttering Food and Agriculture web series. Uncluttering Food and Agriculture is an initiative in which we discuss with global changemakers key issues impacting food and agriculture sector and how we can make this sector environmentally sustainable, financially inclusive, efficient, and fair. We try to understand how these global transformative leaders view current food and agriculture ecosystem and what is their vision for the sector going forward. Today, our area of interest is seeds. Good health is due to good food. Good food is due to good agriculture produce. And good agriculture produce is due to good seeds. So we have one of the finest brain on the subject to talk about seeds today. Ponsi Trivisvavet. Ponsi is CEO of Inari. Inari is a seed design company that is revolutionizing the plant breeding technology and is devoted to improving the way farmers grow the crops that feed us. Inari is developing customized seed that adapt to a particular grower's location, altitude, climate, water supply, soil quality, and so on. Ponsi is a global citizen born in Asia and raised in California, both known for their agriculture, with a professional experience all across the globe. She brings global knowledge of the agriculture and seeds business and extensive management and operational skills to a leadership of the company Inari. Prior to joining Inari, she was CEO at Indigo Agriculture, where she led the R&D operations and built the international businesses. Beforehand, Ponsi held a number of leadership and commercial roles at Syngenta, most recently as president of Syngenta Seeds and regional director of North America. After Syngenta, Ponsi held positions with McKinsey. Before Syngenta, Ponsi held positions with McKinsey and Company, as well as with Merrill Lynch Fatwa in Asia. She holds an MBA with distinction from Cornell University. Ponsi is a well-decorated professional with awards including Technology Pioneer from World Economic Forum, where she was recently invited to Global Innovators Community. Thanks, Ponsi, for accepting our invitation to participate in this web series, Uncluttering Food and Agriculture. Floor is yours to tell us more about interesting work you are doing.
Thank you so much, Deepak. It's really nice to be able to be on this webcast and really honored to share our perspective here. I'll start off with Inari. What Inari is doing, we are a seed design company, as Deepak said. What does it mean in terms of designing the seeds? So seeds, even though it's just so tiny, small, but it's actually are so complicated in there. The genome is consuming a lot of things in there, right? It's much more complicated than the human genome for some of the crops. So the question becomes, how do we actually unlock the full potential of this tiny unsung hero? And that's what we do at Inari. So we unlock that full potential by using the combination of the software and the hardware. So that those software, what we meant is using the predictive design to understand every single genome of the crops. And then the hardware for us is the multiplex gene editing. So use that to unlock the full potential of that in order to create a major positive outcome, in order to use less land, in order to use less water, in order to use less nitrogen fertilizer. And that's what we do at Inari.
No, that's awesome, Ponsi, actually, I had honor of meeting a lot of innovators in agriculture, and majority of time we focus on precision agriculture through machines, which is hardware, but someone going deep and believing that the seed itself can be a hardware, which can revolutionize the agriculture. That's really interesting and very innovative. This brings me to my first question. We would like to understand a little bit more when you say predictive analytics. Right. So we have seen that the world is so diverse, from climatic, models, as well as agroclimatical zones, type of soils, varieties, there are 200,000 varieties of corn. And now to bring that software and use it to create hardware, which is seed, we would like to understand, what innovations and where do you see, you are very different than anything which has been done so far. And I believe very strongly, I have not seen anything so far remotely close to what you are doing.
Yeah, thank you. So when we said software, some people actually call it machine learning. Some people call it artificial intelligence, but we call it predictive design. So effectively, what we're doing here is we try to go into not only at the genetic level, but down to the sequence level, down to the letter level. So really fine level within the genome of the seed itself for each crop. So what we try to do there is essentially think about it as when you try to zoom down the whole county and you want to understand the county, you don't stay at the county. You have to go down to the level of the street, the block of the streets, and understand that, oh, out of the whole county here, if I actually combine the houses on this street with that house and on the southwest and with the house on the in the east, northern east there, if you combine it, it would have the phenotype effect in terms of consuming less water in the area of root. So that's essentially what we are trying to do with the predictive design. So create a map and know exactly the combination within that map that would create the outcome that we would like to see. So that's essentially what we are doing. So yes, we do have quite a bit of software engineers, quite a bit of data scientists here in terms of really understand the complexity of the genome of the crops.
Fair enough. Answer that question along those lines further. How difficult is to have the data sets? Because the agriculture being so diverse, right? One thing is that definitely the genetic data sets. Other thing is that the impact of the environment, impact of field studies, right, on those beautiful seeds which you would have edited. How difficult is to collate data, and associated question along with that, does that make scalability a little bit of a challenge?
So the first question around the data, it depends on the crop. Some crop, actually, there are quite a lot of available data out there already, such as corn. So many people have actually studied there. So there are public data that we can get into that further. We also do certain field trial to feed the phenotype data back to the genotype. So that's the piece that we're working on. But you're correct. It needs to be started off with the high quality data to train the model. So the model could help us. So the initial data would be the most critical part of it. Yes, the second question around the linkage to the environment, it is important. So the phenotype that feed it back is based on the envirotype, that how does it operate with certain genotype in which environment. So it got fed back to the model as well. So the beauty of the AI machine learning predictive design, when you ask about the scalability, is the most difficult part is actually the first time that you train the model. So once you train the model into certain area, then the next level of improving the performance, it needs actually limited amount of data to increase the radical performance up. But at the same time, you talk about the scalability, it comes back to the point at why predictive design is even more important. So, because this one is allow us to understand the crops via genotype, the link with phenotype. Think about it as it's an in silico understanding, which is much more efficient than just going into the field and keep doing the field trials for several years. And then look and feel in the field there, rather than actually really have the predictive ability to scope down what we need to make the changes. It actually cuts down the time. It's complex at the beginning, but it cuts down time for the whole process of developing seeds.
No, that's awesome, because I'm seeing this as being the first of its kind, where actually you are trying to make such a complex operation of agriculture, driving towards generic AI from the handmade machine learning algorithms. So it's right, once you put all those models in place, you corrected that, then the simulation, and then you reduce the need of the field trials and all that. So super awesome, very excited, and definitely I'll be keep on watching the great work you are doing and learning from it. That brings me to a little bit of a separate issue, when we talk about seeds and playing with the seeds. right? We have seen that since Green Revolution times, right? There have been a lot of debate around seeds, whether it is like, the hybrids to the GMOs. Now we are talking about genetic editing. So would you like to explain a little bit about like, your multiplexing and the technology you are using, where it differentiates substantially, right, from the old way of GMO sort of like, activities, which created so much of controversies and challenges. So definitely audience would learn a lot if you can just explain that the differentiation which you are doing than the past way of doing the genetics in seeds.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is a very important question, right? So I'll go back to this little seed that it's just so complex. When there are number of genes in there. So when we are trying to actually address the challenge that I was referring to, whether it's about significantly increased productivity, whether it would be around reducing the amount of water or reducing the amount of nitrogen fertilizer. All of these three questions are complex problems. All of this require us to deal with several genes at the same time. It's not a one single gene solution. So therefore, when I first introduced what Inari is doing on the hardware side, I use the word multiplex gene editing because we work on the multiple genes and multiple approach at the same time. The difference there that we're doing when we said multiplex gene editing is everything that we touch on editing the gene, we edit the natural genes. So when we edit the corn, so basically we work on the corn gene itself. When we do soy, we work on the soy gene itself. So we don't cross any species. We don't insert any foreign gene in. So unlike GMO, that there's an insertion of foreign gene like bacteria in. So when you insert the bacteria gene in, then foreign gene in, so you can do it only one gene at a time. So therefore, the focus of the GMO has been the problem of addressing the pest management, the insect control, herbicide tolerance. The beauty of what we're trying to do at Inari here is because we work on several genes, we are able to actually address the problems that I shared with you earlier on those three key problems. And also, when we talk about it, we're talking about how do you express the natural gene better? How do you actually get them to perform better? And these are the pieces that how do you accelerate the nature? We have only one lifetime here. These natural genes can happen by nature in terms of trying to express more, but we don't have 10 lifetimes and we can't wait for that. How do you actually accelerate the nature expression to the point whereby these seeds, this crop can take less water and then protect our environment? So that's essentially what we are trying to do here.
But that's very important because like, there has been so much talk about like climate change, right? Every time we see a disaster, we start talking about like, relief, help, support, right? We never see that actually we'll have to start solving the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is the way the food ecosystem works in this world, right? The amount of water which we are using, amount of carbon and methane we are putting in the environment because of agriculture is substantially high. So the technology like you, which I would say like, our climate resilient agriculture, where like, even if the climate become harsh, still you are able to grow. But at the same time, you also are regenerative enough to help the environment so that less use of water and less use of resources. Now, this brings me to a very, I'll say that a philosophical question. There's been so much diversity when you have a discourse on agriculture, right? From Asia to America, it changed completely. You know better than me, right? And from the consumer to the producer, it changes substantially. And then from the input companies to the innovators, like we changed substantially. So we talk about regenerative agriculture, we talk about conventional agriculture, we talk about A is good, B is bad. What is your view of the changes we need to see in agriculture? Or do you think that actually only the evolving trends of like improving productivity, right, at sacrificing all other things, does it work further, or do we have to make a hard stop now?
Well, the regenerative agriculture, yes, there has been a lot of talk around it. I think the innovation and the regenerative agriculture can coexist. That's how I see it. And in fact, I would argue that we need everyone to solve this big problem. It's not going to be one solution. The challenge of the global food system is much more complex than anything else that you could imagine. It's actually arguably the most difficult subject and the most important subject that everyone has to jump in and solve this. And by way of if I could elaborate it further, Deepak, that definition of food system in the term of the UN, which is aligned with what Inari is looking at, is it's not only about feeding the world, which is number one in the elements of the three things. Number two, we have to protect the environment as well. And number three is also the economics of the community or the farmers as well. So that's the way that Inari look at the food system there. It doesn't have to be just one, but how do you create a food system that address all three elements at the same time? And in order to do that, everybody has to help each other. All the solutions, all the innovations that could happen, we need all of them.
No, I agree with you totally, because unfortunately what I've seen is that there are trends in agriculture. We love talking for 3 years, 4 years a specific activity, then we move to next. And it has been happening since Green Revolution, right? And all the three aspects are very important. I fully agree that actually, we need to feed those more than 1 billion people who are starving today, right, post-COVID. Also, we need to ensure that the growers, right, which happens to be very substantial, especially in the part of the world I live in. For example, India and Southeast Asia, where you are having 50 to 60% of population involved in agriculture as a livelihood. You cannot just suddenly one day believe that because they are being very, I'll say that, abusive to environment in the way they are doing agriculture, let's just move them out of the ecosystem. That's not possible. Now, that brings me to a very pertinent question. We have seen that innovation eventually ends up increasing cost of cultivation for the farmers, right? And that has been happening for 3 decades already, right? How do you see, the work which you are doing, right? Would that reduce the cost of cultivation? I can see definitely drop in water and nitrogen would reduce the cost. But do you see that there is additional cost which would be the burden on farmers to be more environmentally sustainable? Or do you see that you will be able to reduce the cost of farmers?
Yeah, it comes back to the triangle that I was talking about, the third one, that certainly at Inari, what we're trying to do is to also improve the profitability of the farmers, which would have the impact to the community where the farmers live. So that's really important for us. So going back to the technologies that we're bringing in terms of the predictive design, the software, and the multiplex gene editing there, because we put in the focus on having the knowledge upfront, knowing where we need to express the gene more, so we know exactly where to go. So then when we actually make the expression more, we know, and that it's more efficient. So it reduces the time, it reduces the cost, and able to actually improve the performance of the crop significantly. So if you think about it, less time, less cost to develop it, and at the same time, much better performance. And of course, that would have the impact to the farmer's profitability, and that would have the impact to the ability to serve the needs for the environment, and have the ability to actually feed the world in a much lower cost. So essentially, it's the essence of it as well that we need to look at it. It's really important.
That's super awesome, because we have seen that, unfortunately, what has happened so far in agriculture, that because of the long cycles of innovation being adopted, it becomes so costly that when it reaches farmer, it becomes prohibitive for some of them. And then again, whether it's a farmer is in US or India, they have to be sustenance farmers supported by the governments or the ecosystem. Now, I would also like to understand that, there has also been a shift in the consumer patterns, right? Now, because of, for example, we would be seeing in next 10 years, a substantial shift towards plant-based proteins, right? That from 3% is going to become 10% of the total cultivation, which would be required. How do you see Inari, moving in those direction? Because I think soya is, other than corn, is another area which you are working strongly. So are you also looking for some other protein crops or varieties, or just soya is currently what would be on plate in next couple of years?
Yeah, currently in our wave one crops are corn, soybean, and wheat, but our technology platforms, those both predictive design and multiplex editing, are applicable to all crops, all geography, all problems. And we expect that we would be able to deploy our technology here for all geography, for all crops, for most of the problems that we're trying to solve in terms of the food system. So that's what we believe.
That's now connecting question. This is more with your business model. So I've seen that actually you're getting into partnerships with other companies where your technology can be used for them to work on maybe other crops or other geographies. So going forward, what is your business model? What would be the focus? To partner more companies, for example? Otherwise, I don't want to wait for your technology to come to India after 10 years, right? Can that process also be made efficient and fast so that the rest of the world can, for other crops, other geographies, can leverage your technology faster?
So we're all open for partnership. At the moment, as said, that we're focusing on the corn, soy, and wheat there. And our business model, we still call it partnership. Our customers are actually independent seed companies. Our customers are seed companies. So what we do here is we use our technology to develop parent seeds. From there, the seed company will take the parent seeds, turn it into the normal seeds, and provide it to the farmers. So for us, it's the whole value chain that would have to work together.
Fair enough. And any plans to go out of America, because North and South America is where I see majority of your focus. And I'm asking you, I'm trying to push you, why not Africa and Asia? Because 80% of the food would be produced there, right, going forward. And they are doing farming in not very, I'll say that, environment friendly or I'll say efficient manner, for sure.
Yeah, we hope to be able to expand into the country outside of the Americas soon. How soon it is, I hope that I will be able to update later.
No, in case my audience is hearing from Asia and Africa, are you open if they start writing to you for partnerships? Or they should wait.
We're open to discuss what we are focusing right now. We like to make sure that the products on the productivity, water and nitrogen reduction actually get to the level that we hope for, and then from there, yes, we're open to discuss around that. But right now, we're focusing on those 3 crops, but happy to consider those other crops along the way.
No, even soya, Australia, Indonesia, and India, they're the huge producers, right? And so if somebody is hearing from soya seed companies, they can reach out at least.
We always open to hear from the partners.
Fair enough. No, actually, I'm pretty excited to get this technology in this part of the world. So that was the reason for pushing you so much. Now that brings me to the most say toward the last section of this discussion. We would like to understand from you 2 things. One thing is that what is the holistic vision of food and agriculture sector in medium and long term, according to you, and also the vision for Inari, same in long term and medium term going forward.
The vision for the food and agriculture, I would like to go back to the triangle. So the vision that we see here is we'd like to actually see that these 3 things can coexist. You don't have to pick one or the other. So if you get this triangle right, it would be a good base that can stay like a pyramid and stay forever for the long run. And that's the real success of the food system, that we can address the feeding the world, taking care of the environment, and keep the profitability in the community there, increase the profitability there. So the vision is everybody, whether it will be the part that from what we're doing, which is the beginning of the food value chain, which is seeds and genetics, we hope that everyone come into play, whether from seeds going down to the planting, going down to the farming, going down to harvesting, going down to the grain, going down to the food company and the food waste management. Everybody has to play the part. More innovations in every single segment to solve these three things together. That would be the vision that 20 years from now, 30 years from now, we said that we have already built the base of this pyramid, and there are more than people ever to solve this most critical problem of the world. So that would be the vision for the agriculture overall, to see this new pyramid. The vision for Inari would like to be part of that pyramid and would like to be a strong part of that and solve that, create that base together with a lot of people on this subject. That would be our vision.
Super awesome. And so that brings us to the end of this discussion, and it was an honor to host you. And I believe, like, a lot of problems would get solved with Inari, and definitely, as you rightly said, we need collaborations, we need different type of technologies, innovation to play a role in making world, I'll say that, more food secured and environmentally resilient. So thanks a lot, Ponsi. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deepak.
Yeah.